Well, Dr. Izadi, first of all, I'd like to thank you for the time you've given us. I would have liked to see you under better circumstances again in Iran, but it's such circumstances that drive us to ask the important questions. And this is actually what I've come to you, why I've come to you, because uh, I think a couple of weeks ago, well, just now, there's a video of you on social media that has spread like wildfire, of you basically predicting the current war. The war that took place just in June. What was your analysis based on at the time?
You know, there are a few things that we know about the US government, at least the current administration. The first thing is that they don't have any ethical standards. They have been engaging in a genocide for the last many months in Gaza. The second thing we know is that their military capacity is extensive. The US military is strong. The third thing we know is that they are willing to spend billions of dollars to achieve some foreign policy goal. Although the United States government is broke, they don't mind spending more money. This is one reason they're broke, because they spend a lot of money on their military. So given these three factors, and given the fact that Netanyahu has been trying to attack Iran for many years, and given the fact that Trump seems to give the Iran portfolio and the Gaza portfolio to Netanyahu, he's running US foreign policy. My analysis was that the only thing that would stop the United States would be the cost of war for US soldiers. So that's one area they have limitations. They cannot lose a lot of soldiers, because if they do that, people don't show up, don't sign up for the US military. And that's not good news if that happens. So my analysis was that if the United States reaches this conclusion that attacking Iran would not cost the US lives, then they would attack Iran. So this is what I was saying in the months before the attack.
What's interesting is that you said that they'd be willing to attack during negotiations.
Right.
This was really a key factor.
Since this analysis was not getting through to its intended audience, then I would use, yes, I would say, look, these negotiations does not prevent the United States in reaching whatever foreign policy goal they have. So they would attack Iran in the middle of negotiations. In fact, the night before the attack, I said that Americans would attack tonight, just a few hours before the attack, with that same analysis, that if they reach that conclusion, they would attack. And in private settings, so these are interviews, but in private settings, when people ask, have they reached that conclusion, that attacking Iran would not cost them a lot, or the cost would be absorbable in terms of lives, American lives, the answer was positive. So I was expecting an attack in the weeks before the attacks.
So, regarding the cost, did Iran do what it could have done over the past months, over the past year and a half? With operations True Promise 1 and True Promise 2, to deliver the correct message to Israel? Was it just an Israeli miscalculation, or did they misconstrue Iranian restraint for what its possible response could be?
So their analysis was correct with regard to the cost to the United States. Financial cost has been huge. This war has been very expensive for both US and Israel. But their analysis was, it seems to be correct when it comes to cost to the United States in terms of lives of American soldiers. And Israelis expected, because they were aware of Iranian ballistic missiles, they experienced receiving those missiles a couple of times before. And they knew that Iran is going to respond, and that response is going to be extensive. And I think they were prepared for that because the people who are running Israel don't care about human lives, whether it's Muslim or Christian or Jew. And I think this is how Netanyahu convinced Trump, by telling him that, look, this war is not going to cost you too much, it's going to cost us, and we are willing to absorb that cost, so let's go ahead and attack Iran. And this is what happened. I think both sides made 3 mistakes. The first mistake was that I think the cost that Israel experienced was actually more than what they thought. So I think Iran managed to hit them harder than what they expected. They relied too much on American technology to the Iron Dome and other devices that they have. And every time an Iranian missile hit its target, that shows that Iranian technology is superior to American technology. So they miscalculated in that area. The aim of the attack, so this was the first area of miscalculation. The aim of the attack was to overthrow the Iranian government because they want to balkanize Iran. They want to break Iran apart.
That's actually what I wanted to ask you. I mean, there's we haven't heard much of this in the last decades, but this talk has now been revived that they're willing to break up Iran into a number of states.
And this is nothing new. I was reading, I encourage you, since you're doing Al-Mayadeen English, Michael Hudson, who is an old professor now in the United States, wrote a book in the 1970s about geopolitics. And he was invited, in that article he is recalling that event. He was invited to a military setting, US military setting, and he is recalling that in 1975 we had American military officials talking about breaking Iran apart into 6
Before the revolution.
Before the revolution. In fact, the revolution prevented that idea.
So wait, the Shah, the US's best friend, was in fact basically the US was about to betray him yet again, just like the British and the Americans betrayed his father. The British betrayed his father.
The problem was not the Shah. The problem was Iran. Iran, in their opinion, was too big. Shah was a good servant until the last minute. The problem was Iran. Iran, in their opinion, was too big. Population was too large. Resources were too much. And a country with Iran's size, population, and resources would be a competitor to the United States and Israel because they want total hegemony. And they think of Iran as a competitor that needs to be broken up. So that was the idea. Iran had a revolution in 1979. That stopped that idea. But they didn't give up. So one reason behind putting Saddam in charge of attacking Iran was to break Iran apart. They wanted to separate the oil-rich parts. And the other parts of Iran would be manageable since they don't have the access to those oil resources. And that idea has been an Israeli idea for many years. Netanyahu has managed to convince Trump to go with that idea. The problem they have is the Iranian government. So they have to overthrow the Iranian government so they can have a weak central government in Tehran, so they can take different parts of Iran apart. And so that's the reason they attacked the Iranian television. if you're concerned about Iran's nuclear program, why would you attack a television station? Why would you attack a prison?
Which went wholly underreported in Western media.
Right. I went to Iranian television last night, and the interview was the same lady that you saw there with Miss Amami. She works there, so she was on call last night. So I recall the fact that I was on air with another channel, not yours, when that happened. So I translated her statements. She was saying something when she got hit into English. It was an English channel for their audience, because the video had just come out and I was the person on air at that time. They attacked a prison, thinking that they attacked the door of a prison, thinking that they get the prisoners out, and they thought, okay, they come out, they maybe go to the television, take over the television, and so they want to have a regime change, scheme. Netanyahu, on the second day of the start of the war, asked the Iranians to come to the streets and be united, and they did, against him and against Trump.
That was a very surprising moment. I mean, you have, first of all, Netanyahu calling for regime change. And I will get back to that, but I really want to address this. How did the Iran, I mean, you've had years of unrest being fomented by the West, and just when the West decided to attack and push through their regime change plans, people came together. I mean, you had girls without hijab, you had people who would not normally be supporters of the Islamic Republic come together in defense of the Islamic Republic.
So the people who have been supporting the government, they obviously showed up. And then you have some people in Iran that don't like government policies or what, but they like Iran. And one reason they don't like the government is that they say that you're not doing a good job managing the country, managing Iran. That's a criticism they have. So if you
So it's not an ideological issue.
It's an ideological issue because ideologically they are not religiously oriented. Mostly religiously oriented Iranians support the Iranian government. It's an Islamic Republic. And then people who are not very much into religion, some of them, not all of them, don't like the government, but they like the country. And they don't want, we lost more than 1,000 people. They don't want their fellow citizens to be killed. They don't want their country's infrastructure to be attacked. They don't want to play into some regime change scheme led by Netanyahu, a war criminal that is under indictment by international courts. Why would you, some of the people who don't like Iran's government say that on human rights issues, for example, the hijab should not. But if you're concerned about human rights issues, you wouldn't be following Netanyahu, who's a genocidal maniac. So that was a huge mistake. So the first mistake they had, I don't think they realized the extent of damage that Iran can create in Tel Aviv and Haifa. The second mistake they had was that they didn't realize that this regime change scheme is not going to work out. There's this rally around the flag effect. People are actually becoming more supportive of the government. And the third mistake they had was that they thought by killing top-ranking military officials, it will take days, weeks for Iran's military.
5 to 6 days, I think, according to their estimates.
At least. And it took just a couple of hours for the people to be replaced. And Iran did the first round of attacks the same night, which is...
Because the structure was ready.
Exactly. So that was the third mistake they had. 3 miscalculations. I don't think they have given up. I think they will continue during at least the Trump administration for the next 3.5 years. They will have another try in achieving that policy goal, breaking Iran up, having regime change. I think Netanyahu is in Washington as we speak to come up with some plan to do that. But they're going to fail. They're not going to succeed because the Mossad agents that are giving them advice are not doing a good job. The regime change in this manner.
A lot of wishful thinking going on.
I was watching an interview by an Iranian specialist on BBC Persian, and she was speaking in Farsi, and she was saying that I was packing my suitcase to go to Tehran. That foolish, that foolish. And she's an Iran expert, apparently. So their actions results in innocent people getting killed the same way that what they're doing in Gaza, but they're not going to achieve anything.
So regarding breaking up Iran into a number of states or statelets, how many states are we talking about? Where would they be?
They are thinking about 6. So they take the Azeri speaking, so based on ethnic.
So Arabs in the southwest, Azeris in the northwest.
They want the Kurdish region probably separated. Southeast, the Baluch region to be separated, and northeast maybe the Turkmen region to be separated. And they don't remember, they don't want to remember the experience that Iran had during the 8 years of imposed war by Saddam. That Iran was saved by the same ethnic people that they are counting on to break Iran apart. So in the Kurdish region is in the west of Iran, and they defended Iran against Saddam. The Azeri people had a huge presence during the war, defending Iran and other areas that they're counting on. So, as I said, they're going to fail, but they're going to end up killing a lot of innocent people.
So, one question regarding the cooperation with the IAEA. Myself, I used to live in Tehran years ago, and even back then I used to hear that the Iranian nuclear scientists were being assassinated due to IAEA complicity. At that point, it was just conjecture. But did Iran not have the sufficient evidence to take action back then? Or some people knew, but this was a necessary compromise that needed to be made in the hopes of reaching a deal?
Iranian government officials didn't want to have a military confrontation with the other side. They wanted to resolve this nuclear issue peacefully. IAEA is supposed to be a UN agency. UN agencies are supposed to be impartial. But the way the IAEA board of directors are set up by the United States is that it's dominated by Western countries. And when it comes to choosing the director general of IAEA, they choose someone who is in line with US policies. With this, Rafael Gerossi, he's actually in line with Israeli policies as well. Many times before coming to Iran, he would go to Israel, probably to get instructions on what to do, openly. This is not a secret. He would take a flight to Israel and then.
Of course, he wasn't going to inspect Israeli facilities.
No, he loves those facilities, but I really believe in that. I think he's probably working for Mossad, as far as I know, because under his leadership or lack of, IAEA became an agent of gathering information for the other side. This is before the war, a couple of months before the war. You had this guy, Norman Rule, who was the head of Iran desk at the CIA. And a congressman, he's testifying at a hearing at the US Congress. The congressman asks him, what is the biggest challenge that you have in terms of, in case US decides to attack Iranian military sites, what's the biggest challenge? And he says that since US left the nuclear agreement, IAEA's access to Iranian sites has been reduced to Iran's obligation the minimum obligation Iran had under NPT, not the extended obligation under the nuclear agreement.
Because Iran was wholly cooperating with the IAEA. They
Exactly.
only reduced the cooperation
All
when the
these-
Europe, a year and a half, I think, after the
Right.
Europeans failed to commit to their.
Exactly. So his problem was that we don't have enough access because IAEA doesn't have enough access, which tells you that IAEA was providing the information that IAEA was gathering to the CIA, which is not something that they are supposed to do.
خب سوالاتو سریع تموم کنم قبل از اینکه چیز بشه. Okay. So maybe we can step away from simple analysis, if you'll allow me. During the 12 days of war, were you at all concerned over how this all might play out, how the war might play out, or what the end result would be?
This is something that we also talked about before the war, that the Israelis are not going to, and Americans are not going to achieve regime change objectives. If they attack Iran, this is actually going to unify Iran. This is what we predicted, this is what we saw. We also predicted that Iran's military is going to be more capable of what they thought of Iran's military, and I think that came true. So although this was a very difficult experience for Iran, a lot of people were killed, a lot of infrastructure damaged. This was a teaching for the younger generation of Iranians. The revolution happened 47 years ago in 1979. We had a whole new generation of people. So if you were born in 1979, you would be 47 now. You never saw the Shah, you never saw the American carnage in Iran. And this gave an opportunity to the new generation to understand why their parents and grandparents kicked Americans out. They saw what the US is all about. They saw what Israel is all about. They saw what American hegemony is all about. No matter how much you write these things in books, when people see it, that in the middle of negotiations, they attack you. This is what Trump said, that Israel killed the people I was negotiating with, which is not done in civilized world. When they see that, they realize why we have had this history of resistance against the United States. There is this culture of resistance in Iran that started with the people who made the revolution happen in 1979, and their children read about it, but now they saw. So thanks, they experienced it. So thanks to the Americans, we have a new generation of Iranians that are going to be as resilient as their parents were. Why? Because they realize that the aim of the United States is not just the current government in Iran. The aim is to fight Iran as a nation, which has been an objective of many outside powers for the last 7,000 years, and they have all failed.
It's lovely. Another somewhat personal question, like personal but also political. One of the most pivotal moments could perhaps be seen on the night of Ashura, when Sayyid Khamenei appeared in the Majlis. It was, that moment, it completely took Iran by storm. And first of all, how did you feel at that moment? And in terms of Iranian society, why was Sayyid Khamenei's appearance so important? And I'm only asking because I noticed that even people who would be considered at odds with his worldview and with the government felt ecstatic when he appeared. And this was very surprising.
His popularity has skyrocketed because the things that he has been talking about during his tenure about the United States, about Israel, has come true. He has been telling about the nature of US and Israeli regimes for many, many years. And now even people who didn't accept his worldview realize that he was right throughout these years. Uh, and so this is reason number one. The second reason is that, in Iran's constitution, the leader is the commander-in-chief. So the way he has managed Iran's military to be able to, first of all, Iran is a non-nuclear power standing against two nuclear powers, and the request for a ceasefire came from the other side. This is what Trump said. Trump said that Israelis and Iranians approached him for a ceasefire. This is what he said. And J.D. Vance the next day said that he contacted Amir of Qatar, asking Amir of Qatar to see whether Iranians are ready for a ceasefire.
So they contradicted themselves.
So the first part of Trump's statement was true. Israelis asked him for a ceasefire. The second part wasn't true, because after Israelis asked, J.D. Vance contacted Amir of Qatar, and then Iran accepted. So a non-nuclear state, being under sanctions for 47 years, creating this military capacity to be able to do something to the other side, that the other side asks for a ceasefire. And people realize that, and how this has been done through Ayatollah Khamenei's leadership. So he has done a good job in areas that he was responsible. He has been right for many years on his policies that he has explained. He has been doing a good job as commander-in-chief. And during the attacks, he issued 3 statements, video statements, emphasizing national unity, emphasizing the need to resist. And that rally around the flag, the famous sentence, when it comes to Iran, it's rally around the flag and the country's leader. And he's 86, so an older man. This is the age of people's grandfather. Managing to resist these 2 genocidal regimes creates an attraction,
An aura of leadership.
not only for Iranians, but I think internationally.
One final question, seeing as there's been much talk of negotiations recently. How do you think the government, or how do you envision the best course of action for the government would be at the moment?
I think they are going to learn from the experience they had. They were surprised because they were attacked during negotiations, in the middle of negotiations. They were set to meet for the 6th round. Steve Witkoff had announced that he would go to Muscat. Iran's foreign minister had done the same thing. And then Iran was attacked 2 days before the next round of negotiations. 3 hours before the attack, Trump had a tweet saying that negotiations going well and we expect good results, which now people realize this was a deception operation. So I think the Iranian government has learned that experience. I think if they are going to be negotiating again with the United States, they're going to remember what the US did last time. Given the fact that the other side has failed, it's understandable that they want to achieve objectives that they couldn't achieve through military attack. That's understandable. But this is something that the Iranian government understands, and I think they would use that experience to make sure that the US will continue to fail when it comes to Iran.
Thank you very much, Dr. Izadi, for your time. This was very enlightening.
No problem. Thank you for coming.
I hope our viewers are as enjoy it as much as I have.
Thank you very much.